Have you ever felt like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders? Have you woken up feeling so overwhelmed that you didn't want to get out of bed? Do you feel like everyone expects something from you and there's nothing left for yourself? Have you smiled and said, "I'm fine," when inside you're falling apart? Are you exhausted, not just physically tired, but soul-deep exhausted? Have you looked at your life and wondered how it got this heavy? Do you feel guilty when you rest, like you should always be doing something productive? Have you said yes to things you desperately wanted to say no to? What if I told you that the weight you're carrying isn't all yours to carry? You're not alone in this. Millions of people are walking around right now feeling exactly what you feel. The crushing pressure, the endless responsibilities, the fear that if you stop holding everything together, it will all fall apart. You've convinced yourself you have to be strong, that you can handle it, that asking for help is weakness. You look at others who seem to manage just fine and wonder what's wrong with you. You replay conversations where you should have said no but didn't. You lie awake at night mentally running through everything you have to do tomorrow, next week, next month. The weight sits on your chest, and you've started to believe this is just how life is. But here's what I know for certain. That belief is destroying you, because strength isn't carrying everything alone. Strength is knowing when the load is too heavy and having the courage to set some of it down. The problem isn't that you're weak or incapable. The problem is that you've been taught that your worth comes from how much you can handle. You've been told that rest is laziness, that boundaries are selfish, that saying no means you're letting people down. So you say yes to everything. You carry everyone's problems. You ignore your own needs. You push through exhaustion. You sacrifice your peace for everyone else's comfort. You make yourself smaller so others can be comfortable. You apologize for having limits. You feel guilty for being human, and you wonder why you feel like you're drowning. It's because you're trying to be everything to everyone while being nothing to yourself. You've made yourself responsible for things that were never your responsibility, and the weight of that impossible task is crushing you. Here's what happens if nothing changes. Today you'll push through the exhaustion again. You'll say yes to something you don't have capacity for. You'll put someone else's needs above your own. Tomorrow, the same. Next week, you'll be even more depleted. Next month, you'll wonder how you got here. And eventually, maybe not today, maybe not this year, but eventually you'll break. Your body will force you to stop. Illness, burnout, complete shutdown. Your mind will hit a wall. Your relationships will suffer because you have nothing left to give. The people you're sacrificing for won't thank you for destroying yourself. They'll just wonder why you couldn't hold it together. And the worst part, you'll blame yourself. You'll think you should have been stronger, tried harder, managed better. But the truth is, you were never supposed to carry this much. No one is. That's the cost of carrying weight that was never yours to carry. That's what's at stake right now. Here's what the self-help industry won't tell you. You don't need to be stronger. You don't need better time management. You don't need more productivity hacks or morning routines or motivational quotes. You need permission to be human. You need to understand that you were never designed to carry this much. Your nervous system can only handle so much stress before it starts breaking down. Your body needs rest to function. Your mind needs space to process. Your soul needs peace to survive. And the moment you truly accept this, not intellectually but viscerally, everything changes. Because suddenly, saying no becomes self-preservation, not selfishness. Suddenly, rest becomes necessary, not optional. Suddenly, setting boundaries becomes strength, not weakness. Suddenly, you realize that protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's survival. This isn't speculation. Researchers studying chronic stress found that prolonged overwhelm literally changes your brain structure. It shrinks the hippocampus, the part responsible for memory and emotional regulation. It enlarges the amygdala, your fear center. It reduces prefrontal cortex function, making decisions harder and impulse control weaker. Therapists report that burnout is at epidemic levels across all demographics. People in their 20s, 30s, 40s, all ages, all backgrounds, all falling apart from carrying too much. Medical professionals confirm that stress-related illness accounts for the majority of health problems they see. Headaches, digestive issues, heart problems, autoimmune conditions, your body keeping the score of every you should have said no to. And I've personally watched hundreds of people transform when they learned to put down weight that wasn't theirs to carry. Same principles, same process, different lives. It works. The question is whether you'll use it. Here's what the productivity culture won't admit. You can't hustle your way out of overwhelm. You can't optimize your way to peace. You can't productivity hack your way to sustainable living. Because the problem isn't that you're not doing enough. The problem is that you're doing too much of what isn't yours to do. You're solving problems that aren't yours to solve. You're managing emotions that aren't yours to manage. You're meeting expectations that aren't yours to meet. And no amount of time management or morning routines will fix that. The only thing that fixes it is putting down what doesn't belong to you, learning to say no, setting boundaries, protecting your capacity. And yes, that will make some people uncomfortable. Yes, some people will be disappointed. Yes, you'll feel guilty at first, but you know what else will happen. You'll be able to breathe. You'll have energy for what actually matters. You'll stop drowning. And that's worth every uncomfortable conversation you'll have to have. Here's exactly what's going to happen in the next hour. Right now, you're carrying too much, saying yes when you should say no, and sacrificing yourself for everyone else. In the first chapter, you're going to understand why life feels so heavy. Not just surface reasons, but the deep psychological and biological reasons. You'll discover that the problem isn't the circumstances. It's how you're relating to them. Then you're going to learn how to identify what's actually yours to carry and what you need to put down. Not everything that lands on your plate belongs there. You'll get a clear framework for determining what's your responsibility and what isn't. Next, you'll discover how to say no without guilt and set boundaries that actually protect your peace. This is where self-preservation becomes self-respect. You'll learn the exact words to use and how to handle pushback. After that, you'll learn how to find rest and recovery in a world that never stops demanding. You'll understand that rest isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You'll get 7 specific types of rest you need. And finally, you'll learn how to rebuild your life with sustainable rhythms that honor your humanity instead of ignoring it. By the end, you'll have a complete framework for living without being crushed by the weight. You'll know what to carry, what to release, and how to protect your peace. And most importantly, you'll give yourself permission to be human. By the end of this audiobook, you'll have clarity on what's actually your responsibility and what you've been carrying that isn't. You'll have permission to say no without guilt, without apology, without making yourself smaller. You'll have strategies for rest and recovery that actually work. You'll have boundaries that protect your energy instead of letting everyone drain it. You won't feel guilty about prioritizing yourself. You'll understand it's necessary for survival. You won't feel overwhelmed by everyone's expectations. You'll know which ones actually matter and which ones you can release. You won't feel like you're drowning. You'll know how to stay afloat. What you will feel is lighter, clearer, more at peace. Like you've been given permission to stop carrying the world and just be human, like you can finally breathe. And if you don't feel some relief after this hour, then I've failed you. But I won't. Because these principles work. They've worked for thousands of people. They'll work for you if you let them. So here's the real question. Not whether you'll finish this audiobook, but who you'll be when you do. Will you be someone who listens and goes back to carrying everything? Who nods along but doesn't actually change anything? Who keeps sacrificing yourself until there's nothing left? Or will you be someone who finally puts down the weight? Who sets that boundary you've been avoiding? Who says that no you've been afraid to say? Who takes that rest you've been denying yourself? Who looks back on today as the day you stopped drowning and started living? You get to decide, but you can't decide later. You can't think about it and get back to it. Because carrying this weight for one more day is a choice you're making right now in this moment. Every day you wait is another day of drowning. So what's it going to be? More of the same or something different? The choice is yours, but you have to choose now. You have 1 hour, 60 minutes, less time than a work meeting, less time than scrolling your phone, less time than a movie, but enough time to learn how to live lighter. The next hour is going to separate you from the version of yourself that says yes to everything, that carries everyone's problems, that never rests, that's drowning under the weed. You're either all in or you're out. There's no half listening. No, I'll think about this later. No, this is interesting, but I won't actually do anything. Now is when it changes. Right now, take a breath. Feel the weight you're carrying. Feel how heavy it is. This is your moment to learn how to put it down. This is your moment to choose yourself. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why Life Feels So Heavy. Let's start with the fundamental truth. Life isn't supposed to feel this heavy. I don't mean life should be easy or free from challenges. I mean you shouldn't wake up every day feeling crushed by the weight of existence. That's not normal. That's not how life is meant to be lived. That's a sign that something is deeply wrong with how you're carrying your life. First, understand that there are 2 types of weight: necessary weight and unnecessary weight. Necessary weight is the real, unavoidable responsibilities of being an adult human: paying bills, taking care of your health, maintaining relationships that matter, doing your work, handling actual emergencies when they arise. This weight exists. It's part of life. But necessary weight alone shouldn't crush you. It should be manageable for a reasonably healthy adult. If you're only carrying necessary weight and you feel overwhelmed, there might be practical issues to address. Too much actual responsibility, lack of resources, need for support systems. But for most people, the crushing feeling doesn't come from necessary weight alone. It comes from unnecessary weight. The weight you've added on top of what's actually required. Unnecessary weight looks like other people's emotions you've taken responsibility for, expectations you've accepted that aren't actually yours, Problems you're trying to solve that aren't yours to solve, guilt about saying no to things you don't have capacity for, perfectionism that makes everything harder than it needs to be, comparison to others that makes you feel inadequate, worry about things you can't control, trying to be everything to everyone. This is the weight that's crushing you. And here's the key. You can put this down. You have control over this. Let me explain why you picked it up in the first place. Most of us were raised with messages that taught us to carry unnecessary weight. You were told that your worth comes from being helpful, from making others happy, from never letting anyone down. You learned that saying no is selfish. That rest is laziness. That if you're not exhausted, you're not trying hard enough. You absorb the belief that love means sacrifice, that caring means carrying, that being good means being available to everyone all the time. These messages got internalized. They became the lens through which you see responsibility. So now, when someone has a problem, you feel responsible for solving it. When someone is upset, you feel responsible for their emotions. When an opportunity arises, you feel obligated to say yes even if you don't have capacity. When you need rest, you feel guilty for taking it. Let's talk about what this does to your nervous system. Your body has a stress response system designed to handle acute threats. When you face danger, your sympathetic nervous system activates. Heart rate increases, adrenaline floods your system, blood flow redirects to muscles. This is fight or flight. It's meant to save your life in emergencies. Then when the threat passes, your parasympathetic nervous system activates. Rest and digest mode. Your body recovers. Your nervous system resets. This system works beautifully for short-term threats. A predator chasing you, a car swerving into your lane, a deadline you have to meet. But it was never designed for chronic, unrelenting stress. When you're constantly overwhelmed, your nervous system stays activated. You're in fight or flight mode all the time. Your body never gets to rest and recover. And over time, this creates massive problems. You become more anxious, less able to regulate emotions, worse at making decisions, more reactive. It's not a character flaw, it's biology. Your nervous system is overloaded and it's breaking down. Now let's talk about decision fatigue. Every decision you make uses mental energy. What to wear, what to eat, what task to do first, whether to say yes or no, how to respond to that text, whether to address that issue. All day long, you're making hundreds of micro decisions. When you're also carrying unnecessary weight, worrying about others' feelings, trying to solve everyone's problems, saying yes to things you should decline, you're making even more decisions. And your brain has limited decision-making capacity. Once you've depleted it, decision quality drops. You make poor choices. You avoid decisions entirely. You feel paralyzed. This is why life feels so heavy by the end of the day. You've used up all your mental resources on things that weren't even yours to manage. Let's address boundaries or the lack of them. When you don't have boundaries, you become a dumping ground for everyone else's stress, problems, and emotions. People learn they can come to you with anything and you'll take it on. You become the person everyone calls when they need something. The one who always says yes. The one who always has capacity. Except you don't actually have capacity. You just haven't learned to say no. So you keep taking on more and more until you're buried. And here's what's insidious. People won't stop asking. They'll keep taking whatever you're willing to give. Not because they're bad people, but because you've trained them that you're always available. They don't know you're drowning because you keep saying yes. Boundaries aren't about being mean or selfish. They're about protecting your capacity so you can actually show up for what matters. Here's another massive source of weight: the illusion of control. You're trying to control things you can't actually control. You can't control other people's reactions. You can't control outcomes beyond your actions. You can't control what people think of you. You can't control whether people like or approve of you. But you keep trying. You carry the weight of worrying about all these uncontrollable things. You adjust your behavior to try to manage others' emotions. You overwork to guarantee success. You people please to avoid rejection. All of this creates enormous weight because you're trying to control the uncontrollable. The only thing you can control is yourself. Your choices, your responses, your boundaries, your energy allocation. When you accept this, you can put down the massive weight of trying to control everything else. Let's talk about comparison. When you compare your life to others' highlight reels, you create artificial weight. You see someone who seems to have it all together and you feel inadequate. You see someone doing more and you feel like you should be doing more too. You see someone who appears effortless and you feel like your struggle means you're failing. But you're comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. You have no idea what they're actually dealing with. When you stop comparing, you can focus on your actual capacity and needs instead of an imaginary standard. Now, perfectionism, one of the heaviest unnecessary weights. Perfectionism tells you that good isn't enough. Everything must be excellent. Every task must be done flawlessly. This is impossible, and trying to achieve it makes everything harder and heavier. A task that should take 30 minutes takes 3 hours because you're perfecting every detail. Perfectionism isn't about high standards. It's about fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. Done is better than perfect. Good enough is often actually good enough. Finally, the accumulation effect. You didn't get to this level of overwhelm overnight. It happened gradually. You said yes to one thing, then another, then another. You took on one person's problems, then another's, then another's. Each one seemed manageable, but they accumulated. And now you're carrying a massive load that no single human should carry. The weight feels so heavy because it is heavy. So why does life feel so heavy? Because you're carrying unnecessary weight on top of necessary weight. Because your nervous system is overloaded. Because you have no boundaries. Because you're trying to control the uncontrollable. Because you're comparing yourself to others. Because perfectionism makes everything harder. Because weights have accumulated. But here's the good news. Most of this weight is unnecessary. And in the next chapter, we're going to learn exactly how to identify what's yours to carry and what needs to be put down. Chapter 2: What's yours to carry? Now that you understand why life feels so heavy, let's get practical. You need a framework for determining what's actually yours to carry and what you need to release. Let's start with a simple principle. You are responsible for yourself, not for other people. This sounds obvious, but most people don't actually live this way. You are responsible for your own emotions, your own behavior, your own choices. Your own reactions, your own well-being, your own happiness, your own growth, your own life. You are not responsible for other people's emotions, other people's problems unless they're your minor children or dependents, other people's happiness, other people's reactions to your boundaries, other people's expectations of you, other people's opinions of you, fixing or saving anyone. This distinction changes everything. When you take responsibility for things that aren't yours, you create weight that crushes you. When you focus on what is actually yours, the load becomes manageable. Let's break down specific areas. Emotions. You are responsible for managing your own emotions, processing them, getting support when needed, not taking them out on others. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions. If your boundary makes someone angry, that anger is theirs to manage. If your no disappoints someone, that disappointment is theirs to process. You can be empathetic. You can be kind. But you cannot and should not take responsibility for regulating other adults' emotional states. Problems. You are responsible for solving your own problems, finding resources, making decisions, dealing with consequences of your choices. You are not responsible for solving other adults' problems for them. You can offer support. You can listen. But the problem and its solution belong to them. When you take over their problems, you rob them of agency and burden yourself unnecessarily. Relationships. You are responsible for showing up authentically, communicating clearly, maintaining your boundaries, being respectful, contributing your part. You are not responsible for the entire relationship. It takes two people. If someone chooses not to respect your boundaries, that's on them. If someone decides to leave because you can't meet their expectations, that's their choice. Work. You are responsible for doing your job well, meeting reasonable expectations, communicating about capacity. You are not responsible for doing everyone else's job, working beyond contracted hours consistently, sacrificing health for work, making up for poor management, being available 24/7. Health. You are responsible for taking care of your body, getting rest, eating reasonably, moving, seeking medical care. You are not responsible for being healthy despite impossible circumstances, pushing through when your body is screaming for rest, maintaining everyone else's health while ignoring your own. Now let's talk about how to identify whether something is yours to carry. Ask yourself these 5 questions. Question 1. Is this my problem or someone else's? If it's someone else's problem, it's not yours to carry unless they're your dependent. Question 2. Am I the only one who can handle this? Usually the answer is no. Other people are capable. Question 3. What happens if I don't do this? Walk through the actual consequences, not the catastrophic ones you imagine. Often the real consequences are much less severe than you think. Question 4. Am I doing this out of guilt, fear, or obligation? Or am I doing it out of genuine desire and available capacity? If it's guilt, fear, or obligation, it's probably not actually yours to carry. Question 5. Is this sustainable? Can I continue doing this without burning out? If not, it's not yours to carry long-term. Let's practice with an example. Your friend calls upset about their relationship problems for the 3rd time this week. You're exhausted, but you answer and spend 2 hours listening. Is this yours to carry? Is this my problem? No, it's their relationship. Am I the only one who can help? No, they could talk to a therapist or other friends. What happens if I don't answer? They'll be upset temporarily, but they'll handle it. They're an adult. Am I doing this out of guilt or genuine desire? Guilt. You're tired, but you feel bad saying no. Is this sustainable? No, you're depleted. Verdict. Not yours to carry. You can set a boundary. I care about you, but I'm not in a place to talk tonight. Can we connect this weekend? Another example. Your boss consistently gives you work beyond your job description and expects it done immediately. You're working 60-hour weeks. Is this yours to carry? The work within your actual job description is yours. The overflow and unreasonable expectations are not. You need to have a conversation about capacity or consider if this is the right job. Now let's talk about the guilt that comes up when you identify what's not yours to carry. RRY. You'll feel guilty putting things down. That's normal. Guilt is your old programming trying to keep you in familiar patterns. The guilt doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something different. Expect guilt. Notice it. Don't let it control your choices. Here's a hard truth. Some people will be upset when you stop carrying what's not yours. The friend who's used to you dropping everything will be disappointed when you set boundaries. The family member who expects constant availability will be hurt when you limit contact. Their upset doesn't mean you're wrong. It means the dynamic is changing. And change is uncomfortable. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. Let's discuss actual obligations versus assumed obligations. Actual obligations are things you've genuinely committed to. Contracts you've signed, explicit promises you've made, legal responsibilities. Assumed obligations are things you feel you should do but never actually agreed to. Being available 24/7 because that's what people expect. Solving every problem because that's what you've always done. You can release assumed obligations. They were never binding in the first place. Here's a framework for deciding what to keep and what to release. Category 1. Keep carrying. These are necessary responsibilities you genuinely have capacity for. Category 2. Delegate or get help. These are necessary responsibilities you can't handle alone. Category 3. Renegotiate. These are commitments that made sense once but don't anymore. I know I've been doing this, but I need to scale back. Can we talk about alternatives? Category 4. Release completely. These are things that were never yours, things you took on out of guilt, things that are actively harming you. Let them go. Finally, remember this. Putting down weight that's not yours to carry doesn't make you selfish. It makes you wise. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. It doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a person who understands their limits. In the next chapter, we're going to learn how to say no without guilt and set boundaries that actually protect your peace. Chapter 3. Saying no and setting boundaries. You've identified what's not yours to carry. Now comes the hardest part, actually putting it down. This means saying no. This means setting boundaries. Let's change how you think about this. First, understand what a boundary actually is. A boundary is not a way to control other people. It's a way to protect yourself. A boundary says, this is what I'm willing and able to do. This is what I'm not willing or able to do. It's about you, not them. Most people think boundaries are mean or selfish. They're not. Boundaries are self-respect. They're recognition of your limits. They're honesty about your capacity. Without boundaries, you're lying to yourself and to others. You're pretending you have infinite capacity when you don't. You're saying yes when you mean no. You're building resentment and heading toward burnout. Boundaries prevent that. Let's start with saying no. This is the foundation of boundary setting. For many people, saying no feels like the hardest thing in the world. Why? Because you've been taught that no is negative, that no disappoints people, that no makes you bad, but here's the reframe. No is a complete sentence. No is protection of your capacity. No to something that doesn't serve you is yes to something that does. No is honesty. When you say yes to everything, your yes means nothing. When you're selective about your yeses, they become meaningful. So how do you say no? Here are 5 types. Type 1, the direct no. Simply state your boundary without over-explaining. I can't do that. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available. You don't owe an elaborate explanation. Type 2, the appreciative no. Acknowledge the request and decline. Thank you for thinking of me, but I can't take that on. This adds warmth without changing the no. Type 3, the alternative no. You decline but offer another option if you genuinely want to help within your capacity. I can't do the whole project, but I can do this small part. Only offer alternatives if you genuinely have capacity. Type 4, the delayed no. If you automatically say yes, then regret it by time. Let me check my calendar and get back to you. This gives you space to consider. Type 5, the firm no to repeat requests. When someone doesn't respect your first no and keeps pushing, escalate firmness. As I said, I'm not able to do that. You're not being mean. You're being clear. Now let's address the guilt. You will feel guilty, especially at first. That's your conditioning. Here's how to handle it. Remind yourself why you're saying no. You're protecting your capacity. Remember that their disappointment is manageable. They're adults. Notice that you're not responsible for their emotional reaction. Recognize that guilt is just a feeling. It will pass. Celebrate your no. You did something hard. Let's talk about specific situations, family expectations. I know you expect me to visit every holiday, but I need some holidays at home. I'll visit Thanksgiving, but not Christmas this year. Friend requests. I'd love to help you move, but I'm not able to do that this weekend. I can bring food when you're settled. Work demands. I understand this project is important, but I'm at capacity. If you need this prioritized, we'll need to discuss what comes off my plate. Social invitations. Thank you for inviting me. I'm not up for socializing this week, but I appreciate you thinking of me. Now let's talk about boundaries beyond saying no. Boundaries define what behavior you will and won't accept, what access people have to your time and energy, what topics you will and won't discuss. Here's how to set a boundary. Start by describing when the behavior happens. Then explain how you feel and why. Next, state what you need going forward. Finally, outline what happens if the behavior continues. Example: when you call me multiple times a day, I feel overwhelmed because I'm juggling work and family. Going forward, I need you to text instead, and I'll call when I have capacity. If the calls continue, I'll need to turn my phone off during work hours. Notice what this includes: naming the behavior specifically, expressing the impact, stating the boundary clearly, outlining a consequence you're willing to enforce. The consequence is crucial. A boundary without a consequence is just a wish. Let's talk about common boundary violations. Violation. Someone gets angry when you set a boundary. Response. I understand you're upset, but this boundary is necessary for me. I'm not changing it. Do not engage with their anger endlessly. State your boundary and disengage. Violation. Someone guilt trips you. I guess I'm just not important to you. Response. That's not true, and this boundary doesn't mean that. I care about you and I have limits. Don't take the bait. Violation. Someone ignores your boundary repeatedly. Response. Enforce the consequence. If you said you'd leave the conversation if they brought up that topic, and they do, you leave. Your consequence is what makes your boundary real. Violation. Someone tries to negotiate. Can't you make an exception just this once? Response. I understand you want that, but my boundary stands. Now let's address the fear that boundaries will damage relationships. Some relationships will change when you set boundaries. That's inevitable. But here's what actually happens. Strong relationships respect boundaries. The people who truly care about you will adjust. They might be disappointed initially, but they'll respect your limits. These relationships will actually get stronger because they're based on honesty. Toxic relationships don't respect boundaries. The people who are only in your life because you have no limits will push back hard. These relationships might end, and that's okay. A relationship that only works when you have no boundaries is not a healthy relationship. Let's talk about boundaries at work. You're allowed to have boundaries at work. You're not required to be available 24/7. You're not required to do everyone's job. Work boundaries might look like, I'm not available for emails after 6 p.m. I'm taking my full lunch break. That's outside my job description. Can we discuss adding that officially? Be professional, be clear. But don't apologize for having limits. Boundary setting in close relationships with partners. I need some alone time to recharge. I'm going to take 30 minutes when I get home before we talk about the day. With children, age-appropriate boundaries. Mommy needs quiet time for 20 minutes. You can play independently. With parents. I love you, but I need you to stop commenting on my weight. If it continues, I'll end our visit. Be consistent, be kind, be firm. The boundary setting process. Step 1. Get clear on what you need. Step 2. Communicate the boundary clearly. Step 3. Hold the boundary, don't negotiate it away. Step 4. Enforce consequences when violated. Step 5. Repeat as necessary. Some people need to test boundaries multiple times before they believe you're serious. Self-boundaries are just as important. I won't check work email after 7 p.m. I won't scroll social media in bed. I won't say yes to new commitments without sleeping on it. Hold yourself accountable. Finally, remember that boundary setting is a skill. You'll be awkward at first. You'll mess up. You'll feel guilty. That's all normal. Keep practicing. Every boundary you set and hold makes the next one easier. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about rest and recovery. Because boundaries protect your energy, but you also need to actively restore it. Chapter 4. Finding Rest in the Chaos. You've learned what's yours to carry and how to set boundaries. Now let's talk about something most people treat as optional but is actually essential. Rest. Not just sleep, though that's crucial. I'm talking about deep rest for your nervous system, your mind, and your soul. Let's start by reframing what rest is. Rest is not laziness. Rest is not something you have to earn through productivity. Rest is not a reward for working hard enough. Rest is a biological necessity. Your body requires rest to function. Your brain needs downtime to process information. Your nervous system needs recovery to regulate itself. Without rest, everything falls apart. You get sick. You make poor decisions. You lose emotional regulation. You burn out. Here's what most people don't understand. Rest is not the opposite of work. Rest is what makes work possible. Athletes know this. You can't train at maximum intensity 24/7. You'll injure yourself. You build in rest days because that's when your muscles actually repair and grow. The same principle applies to your life. You can't operate at maximum capacity indefinitely. You need recovery periods. Let's talk about different types of rest. Type 1, physical rest. This is sleep and passive rest like lying down or napping. Your body needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. This is not negotiable. Type 2, mental rest. This is breaks from cognitive work. Your brain can only focus intensely for about 90 minutes before it needs a break. Mental rest looks like stepping away from your computer, taking a short walk, doing something mindless. Type 3, sensory rest. In our modern world, you're bombarded with stimuli constantly. Screens, notifications, noise, bright lights. Sensory rest means reducing input, closing your eyes, sitting in a quiet room, turning off screens, spending time in nature. Type 4, emotional rest. This is space to express your feelings authentically without performance. It's being with people who don't require you to pretend. It's therapy, journaling, talking to a trusted friend who just listens. Type 5, social rest. This is time away from people and social demands. Even if you love people, social interaction requires energy. You need alone time to recharge. Type 6, creative rest. This is exposure to beauty and inspiration without the pressure to create anything yourself. Going to a museum, reading fiction, listening to music, watching a sunset. Type 7, spiritual rest. This is connection to something larger than yourself. Religion, nature, meditation, quiet contemplation. You need all 7 types. When life feels crushingly heavy, it's often because you're deficient in multiple types of rest. Now let's talk about how to actually get rest. First, you have to make rest non-negotiable. Schedule it the same way you schedule work and obligations. If it's not on your calendar, it won't happen. Block off rest time and protect it. Second, start small if rest feels impossible. You don't need a 2-week vacation. Start with 10 minutes of completely unstructured time. Just sit. Do nothing. This might feel excruciating at first. That's how you know you need it. Gradually increase. Third, identify what actually recharges you versus what you think should recharge you. For some people, being alone in nature is deeply restorative. For others, it's having coffee with a friend. Pay attention to what actually leaves you feeling restored. Fourth, build micro-rests into your day. 2-minute breathing breaks between meetings. 5 minutes at lunch sitting without your phone. 10 minutes before bed to stretch or journal. Fifth, protect your sleep ferociously. Set a bedtime and stick to it. Create a wind-down routine. Make your bedroom dark, cool, quiet. Limit screens before bed. Sleep is the foundation of everything else. Let's address the guilt about rest. You'll feel like you should be doing something productive. You'll feel like rest is selfish when others need things. None of this is true. Rest is not selfish. Rest is what enables you to show up for others. When you're depleted, you have nothing to give. When you're rested, you can be present and helpful, and you don't have to earn rest. You're entitled to rest simply by being human. What rest is not. Rest is not scrolling social media. That's not restorative. It's often draining. Rest is not binge-watching TV while mentally running through your to-do list. That's not rest if your mind is still churning. True rest is whatever leaves you feeling more restored than before. Active rest versus passive rest. Passive rest is doing nothing. Sleeping, lying down, sitting quietly. Active rest is low-energy activity that's restorative. Gentle walking, stretching, easy creative hobbies. You need both. Let's talk about the resistance to rest. Even when you intellectually know you need rest, you'll resist it. Why? Because rest requires you to stop, and stopping feels dangerous. It feels like everything will fall apart if you stop holding it together. This is the exhaustion talking. The truth is, everything is already falling apart because you're too depleted to handle it well. Rest doesn't make things worse. Rest is what allows you to address them effectively. Here's a powerful reframe. Rest is productive. Rest allows your brain to consolidate learning. Rest improves decision-making. Rest enhances creativity and problem-solving. Rest strengthens your immune system. Rest improves mood and emotional regulation. All of these things make you better at everything you do. So rest isn't taking time away from being productive. Rest is enabling you to be more productive. Some people genuinely don't have access to rest because of their circumstances. Single parents with no support, people working multiple jobs to survive, people in crisis. If this is you, you need structural solutions. Asking for help, finding resources, making hard choices. For most people, though, the barriers to rest are internal. You could rest, but you choose not to because of guilt, fear, or conditioning. Rest rituals. Morning ritual. Start your day with 10 minutes of calm, coffee in silence, gentle stretching, sitting outside. Midday ritual. A true lunch break away from your desk. Evening ritual. A wind-down routine that transitions you from doing to being. Bedtime ritual. Consistent routine that signals sleep. Weekend ritual. Protected downtime. These rituals create structure around rest. Finally, saying yes to rest. Just like you need to say no to things that aren't yours to carry, you need to say yes to rest. Yes to sleep when you're tired. Yes to canceling plans when you're depleted. Yes to doing nothing when that's what you need. Yes to rest is yes to your well-being. In the final chapter, we're going to talk about rebuilding your life with sustainable rhythms. Chapter 5. Building a Sustainable Life. You've learned why life feels heavy, what's yours to carry, how to set boundaries, and why rest matters. Now let's talk about the long game, how to build a life that doesn't keep crushing you. This is about creating sustainable rhythms that honor your humanity. Let's start with the core principle. Sustainability over intensity. Our culture glorifies intensity, work 80-hour weeks, hustle constantly, push through pain, maximum output. This creates spectacular burnout. Intensity is not sustainable. You might maintain it for weeks or months, but not for years or decades. Sustainability means rhythms you can maintain indefinitely. It means working at a pace you can keep without depleting yourself. It means building recovery into your life. Let's talk about capacity. Your capacity is how much you can handle without becoming depleted. It's not fixed. It changes based on circumstances, stress, health, support. But at any given time, you have a finite capacity. Living sustainably means respecting that capacity. Most people overestimate their capacity. They think they can do more than they can. They keep adding without subtracting. Here's how to assess your actual capacity. Look at your energy, not just your time. You might have time available but no energy. Consider the context. Your capacity is different when you're healthy versus sick, rested versus exhausted. Account for invisible labor. Emotional labor, decision-making, mental load. Include recovery time. Your capacity isn't just what you can do. It's what you can do and still have energy to recover. Now the 80% rule. Live at 80% of your capacity, not 100%. Keep 20% in reserve. Why? Because life is unpredictable. Emergencies happen. If you're always at 100%, any additional demand breaks you. If you're at 80%, you have buffer space. This doesn't mean you're lazy. It means you're living sustainably. Let's discuss rhythms versus rigidity. Sustainable living isn't about having a perfect, rigid schedule. That's just another way to create pressure. Sustainable living is about rhythms, patterns that have flexibility built in. Daily rhythms might look like morning routine that grounds you, but you're not devastated if it's disrupted. Regular meal times, but you can adjust when needed. Weekly rhythms might look like one day with minimal plans for recovery. A few hours for something you enjoy. Monthly rhythms might look like one weekend day completely unstructured. Time to assess and adjust your life. Yearly rhythms might look like actual vacation time. Seasonal adjustments. These rhythms create consistency without rigidity. Now seasons. Life has seasons. Busy seasons and slow seasons. Seasons of growth and seasons of rest. You can't be in growth mode all the time. Sustainable living means recognizing what season you're in and adjusting accordingly. If you're in a busy season, preparing for a launch, caring for a newborn, managing a crisis, you can operate above your normal capacity temporarily. But you must plan for recovery after. If you're in a slow season, don't fill it with busyness out of guilt. Use the slower pace to rest and recover. Let's discuss systems. Systems reduce decision fatigue and make sustainable habits easier. Meal planning so you're not deciding what to eat every day. Automated bill payments. Regular calendar review. Standard responses for common requests. Consistent routines for daily tasks. These systems free up mental energy. Values alignment. When your life aligns with your values, it feels more sustainable even when it's hard. When your life conflicts with your values, it feels heavy even when it's easy. Identify your core values. What actually matters to you? If family is a top value but you're working 70 hours a week, there's misalignment. If creativity is a top value but you have no time for it, there's misalignment. Realign your life with your values. This might mean making hard choices. But it's the only path to sustainable living. Support. You cannot do life alone sustainably. You need support. People who listen when you're struggling. People who help with practical tasks. Professionals like therapists or doctors. Systems like childcare if you have resources, community that provides belonging, permission to ask for help. Build your support network intentionally. Regular evaluation and adjustment. Sustainable living isn't set it and forget it. Monthly or quarterly, ask yourself, am I consistently exhausted or do I feel generally okay? Am I maintaining my boundaries? Am I getting rest? Are my commitments aligned with my values? What's working? What needs to change? Based on your answers, make adjustments. Drop commitments that no longer serve you. Add support where you're struggling. Good enough. Perfectionism is the enemy of sustainability. If everything must be perfect, you'll exhaust yourself. Good enough is often actua. Good enough. The meal doesn't have to be gourmet. The house doesn't have to be spotless. The work doesn't have to be perfect. Lower your standards where it doesn't actually matter. Saying yes consciously. Once you've learned to say no, you can start saying yes again, but differently. Before, you said yes out of guilt, fear, or obligation. Now you say yes consciously. You say yes to things that align with your values, fit your capacity, bring you joy or meaning. Conscious yesies feel different. They're chosen, not obligatory. Hard seasons. Even with all these tools, life will still get hard sometimes. People you love will get sick or die. You'll face unexpected crises. Sustainable living doesn't eliminate hard seasons. It gives you tools to navigate them without complete destruction. When hard seasons come, you can temporarily exceed your normal capacity, knowing it's temporary. Call in your support network. Release non-essential commitments. Prioritize ruthlessly. Plan for recovery after. Hard seasons are part of life. But they shouldn't be your constant state. Finally, self-compassion. You will mess up. You'll backslide on boundaries. You'll say yes when you should say no. You'll skip rest. That's part of being human. Sustainable living isn't perfect living. It's catching yourself when you slip and course correcting. Be patient with yourself. You're unlearning decades of conditioning. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Let's bring this together. You learned why life feels so heavy, because you're carrying weight that isn't yours. Your nervous system is overloaded, you have no boundaries, and you're trying to control the uncontrollable. You learned what's actually yours to carry. You're responsible for yourself, not for managing other adults' lives. 5 questions help you identify what to release. You learned how to say no and set boundaries. No is a complete sentence. Boundaries protect you. Some relationships will change, and that's okay. You learned about rest. 7 types. It's not optional. Rest makes everything else possible. You learn to build sustainable life. 80% capacity. Honor your seasons. Align with your values. So here's what it all comes down to. You don't have to carry everything. You were never designed to. The crushing weight you feel isn't a sign you're weak. It's a sign you're trying to be superhuman. And you're not superhuman. You're human. That's not a flaw. That's reality. Humans have limits. Humans need rest. Humans need boundaries. When you accept your humanity instead of fighting it, everything changes. Because suddenly you're not trying to be something impossible. You're just being honest about your capacity. Right now, do this. Identify one weight you're carrying that isn't yours, just one. Maybe it's a problem you're solving for someone who should solve it themselves. Maybe it's guilt about a boundary you need to set. Maybe it's an expectation that's crushing you. Name it. Then commit to one action within 24 hours to release it. Have that boundary conversation. Say that no. Take that rest day. Just one thing, write it down. Do it tomorrow. Here's what happens when you do. At first, guilt, discomfort, maybe pushback. That's normal, but what comes after is relief, space, energy you didn't know you had, clarity, the ability to show up for what matters because you're not depleted by what doesn't. Within weeks, lighter. Within months, transformed. You have everything you need. You know what's yours and what's not. You know how to say no. You know rest isn't optional. You know how to build sustainability. Now use it. Put down the weight. Set the boundary. Take the rest. Not someday, today. You deserve to breathe. You've got this.